Look at us.
Look at us. We're just a couple of rural gals trying to create community and entertain. I'm Courtney.
And I'm Annaliese, and we're Egg's most okayest farm girls. Grab a drink. We're here to help. Hey, Courtney.
Hey, girl.
Did you hear that?
I thought that was a beer.
No, I know, it's just a Fresca. Psych! I wish it was a beer. It probably will be soon.
Yeah, thought you were just cracking open a natty ice.
Yeah, nope. Just a cool, refreshing Fresca. How are ya?
I'm good, now that I see your beautiful face.
I know, we took a week off from recording, so it's been a hot minute. I gotta get my podcasting sea legs again here.
Yeah, put your game face on, because we're about to get into it.
We sure are. Before we get into it, we wanted to read a few reviews we've gotten about the podcast that just make us feel like the bells of the wall. I'll go first. So this is from Ashley. Ashley says, I've listened to the first 2 podcasts and it is giving me Off the Husk podcast vibes, but the female version, and I love that. I've been sad that they haven't been recording new podcasts because I love them, because I'd just be dying of laughter and I still learn something new, and that seems to be what is happening with Egg's okayest farm girls. And then she had a little heart.
Oh, that's so sweet.
My day. Because I don't know if you're familiar with Off the Husk, but that's kind of a big podcast, and I also enjoy that podcast. It's the Minnesota Millennial Farmer. It's his podcast. He's really big on YouTube. And then
okay. So is it a bunch of dudes or just him?
It's him, his wife, his friend, and then they'll have guests, and they just like sit around in their basement, drink beers, and talk about farming and bullshit, and it's kind of fun. So
that's the vibe I like.
Yes, it's a vibe I'm willing to take too. I'm glad people like our vibe.
So here's one that I got. You girls are hilarious. I have so enjoyed it. We have had Longhorns for 3 years and I'm trying to start the social media side. It seems like such a mountain, but I want it. And your podcast is definitely a motivator.
Oh, I love that.
We're motivating.
We're motivating. Oh, look at us go. I feel like we've said that every podcast we've recorded. Look at us. Look at us. I just feel big time over here, this podcasting business.
Everyone's making me feel so flattered, and I just love it.
Yeah. And the other bonus about this podcasting thing is I love that, like, I think you had a blanket on. I'm not wearing a bra. I'm in my sweatpants. My face is scabby and disgusting. Like, you don't have to do anything to show up. You just show up and start talking, and it's amazing.
I was totally braless last time as well. Yeah. Nobody knowed.
Nobody knows. Today, we are going to talk about hosting events. I've hosted events off the farm. You've hosted events on the farm. We want to share some tips, tricks, kind of help people figure out, hey, maybe they have an event they want to host, whether it's for rural women, for their community, whatever. So we're going to share what we know, but we also just want to talk about events in general, and just how dumb husbands can be. To host an event. You and I were talking and sharing some reels back and forth of, like, for example, when we were hosting the twins' birthday party, I think it was, like, I'm inside the house hustling, cleaning everything, making food, wrapping presents, and you know what Tom's out there doing? Smoothing out the driveway.
Well, yeah. You gotta have a smooth driveway.
Oh, I was just like,
to the house.
Are you kidding me?
Okay, we love our husbands. For reals. And this is not a show that we're just going to complain about them the whole time. Exactly. They do useful shit too. Like Aaron, I couldn't do any of these events or host anything by myself. He does do valuable things, but also he does stuff like that too. Like I was hosting some sort of party. I think it was just friends and family over at the house, and he was vacuuming the attic for bugs.
Oh my.
It's not a finished attic. Nobody would go near that. But that's what he was doing. I'm like, what?
Yeah,
can you
what is this?
help me clean
the jobs we need to get done? I don't understand.
I don't get it, but
all right, so let's talk hosting events. I've done events off the farm. You've done events on the farm. We want to share our knowledge with everyone because, God, we just feel like gurus, we know it all. Just kidding. We don't. there's going to be stories.
We've been doing this for a couple years, so you got to give us a little cred.
Right. But yeah, why don't you kick it off with some tips, some stories, what you know about hosting events on the farm. Tell us what you've been up to.
Okay. When we first started doing this, we started with coffee with the cows. We had a very cute coffee truck come out, and we kind of started small. We just had the coffee truck. We had a few things in our refinished shop that we were selling, also like some locally sourced stuff and some merch, like some Green Pastures Cattle Co. merch. And then, of course, the Longhorns, the public was allowed to come out and view them. It's not something that people are used to seeing. So we drew a crowd because of that. So the first one was pretty successful. We felt like we sold a bunch of beef. The second one, I don't know why, but like 500 people showed up.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, we were shocked because the only way I kind of advertised for these events was posting it on Facebook and then sharing it to a few groups that I was in. One of them was like Farm Direct Wisconsin. And that's just like a page full of thousands of people who are looking to connect to other farms and their goods. So I posted there, 500 people show up, and I was just like, like, what do we were not expecting this. Like, people stood in line for their coffee for hours. It was the longest line I've ever seen.
I have questions. Sorry if I missed this because I was fucking around moving my pillow here. You didn't provide the coffee, did you? Did you have like a food truck type coffee thing, or what was the coffee situation?
So it was a coffee truck. So she has her own licensing. It's very cute. It was called Butternut Road. She since changed her name, and forgive me, but I don't remember what it's called now. But yeah, she had her own coffee drinks, full menu. She had espresso makers in there. So it's bomb coffee. Like, it's amazing.
Okay, so everybody just came to the farm, got their coffee, looked at the cows, hung out, shopped your store a little bit.
Yes. We did 3 or 4 events, and then we hit the problems. We hit the problems real hard. So I made the mistake of, I think it was going to be for our 4th coffee with the cows. I found this local gal who had this like gorgeous little bar cart. It was like a horse trailer, and she would pull up and she could make drinks. But the only way she could serve like alcoholic beverages is if we had an alcohol permit. And I wanted to know how involved that was going to be in order to obtain that.
Yeah.
So I reached out to like a old friend who I knew had served on the county board. I think she was like the secretary. So I had just reached out to her and I was like, do you know how involved it is to get like a temporary alcohol permit? She kind of explained to me that, yeah, it's very involved. They probably won't grant it to you anyways. Like, it's not common for that type situation. So that's where I was going to end it. She sent me to the county website to look more into it. And I glanced at it and I was like, nope, this isn't for us. Like, that's as far as I was going to take it. So she must have taken it upon herself to take this to our township president or treasurer or secretary. I don't know, maybe the both of them. And so all of a sudden we get a stop work order in the mail. It was very scary. It said like, stop working. You're going to get huge fines. The township president contacted Aaron and was like, you have the county worker on your asses now. Nobody thinks you have the right permits. Like, they thought we needed an agritourism permit in order to hold these events.
Interesting.
And we had never heard of that before, ever. We're like, what?
Yeah.
Because Aaron's like taxidermy shop is right on the same piece of land. We have like the correct zoning. We're zoned agriculture. We have a license to sell our frozen beef from a licensed processor. So we thought like everything in order.
Yeah.
So when we get this letter to stop immediately what we're doing, it was just very scary and intimidating.
Yeah, super scary.
Yeah. So we had to work with like the county worker who's in charge of this kind of stuff. And she actually was very nice. Our township president made her out to be like a horrible, terrible person. But she wasn't at all. Like,
good news.
She's like, no, I'm just here to help you. Like, we were alerted that you guys don't have this permit, so that's why we have to discuss it. She's like, I don't seek out farms to destroy. Like, I was notified, and so now we have to do something about it.
Oh.
So.
Okay. Yeah, because I have more questions. Because I one day want to do on-farm events just like you've been doing. I've got just a notebook of ideas. For one, the timing just isn't right. And I think that's something important to keep in mind if you're thinking about doing events, whether on the farm or somewhere else. Like, it can be so exciting and wanting to do this stuff, but right now my kids are so little that I know it's not the right time. They're going to get older. They're not going to want to hang out with me. And then I think that's when I can implement a lot of my ideas. But now you've got me stopping in my tracks a little bit. So would you recommend to everyone then, like, get your ag tourism, like, get your permits before? Or is this a do it and if you get caught, ask for forgiveness sort of situation?
The county worker who said, like, I'm not actively seeking out farms that are operating without this license or permit, and we were just basically tattletaled on.
Ugh.
So honestly, like, I'm not telling people to break the law, but it wasn't too bad. Like, I think it cost us $800 or $900, but it doesn't expire.
Oh, okay, nice.
It's issued for your property, like your address. And then our farm is spread out by like a mile. So like both properties are included in this. So if we want to hold an event over at the shop, we can, or we can hold an event at our other milk house area.
Yeah.
So yeah, we got tattletaled on. So
tattletales. It was probably someone waiting in line for a coffee and they're like, this is taking too damn long. I'm bringing it down.
I know. I'm friends with a lot of local farm owners, and I bet we are the only farm that has this permit in this county. Like, and that was part of why we were so frustrated, is the county had never dealt with a situation like this before. So they didn't even know 100% what we needed.
Yeah.
They were like, I think you should get this permit. Because they had never done this before. They don't have a bunch of farms doing this in this area. So
would you say your location played a role in any of it? Any of your, not only just your success with like getting so many people to the event, but then also people being little tattletales? Because you are close to Madison, which is a bigger city.
Right. We are close to Madison, and a lot of people are willing to make that drive. We're probably 45 minutes from the west side of Madison. So it's not too far, and people enjoy the scenic drive out to us. But we're not really that close to town. We're kind of out in the middle of nowhere. So
yeah,
that's why I utilized social media to get everybody there, or else they have no clue about us.
I think, but people really want those experiences. They want that time. They're looking for fun, unique things to do. And when it's revolved around food, just having a good time, like, people are willing to pay for that. And that's why I really want to do more on-farm events. One, because I know I can market the shit out of it. Like, I already have a good social media base within my community, with those outside of my community. And also just knowing, like, within the dairy industry, the milk price really sucks and we can't control it. We don't get to control what we get paid. So when I think about expansion and growth on our farm, I'm looking at egg tourism. Or, you know, we've been using a lot of beef semen with our dairy cattle on our older cows, and maybe potentially raising those calves and selling beef directly to consumer, and just more things that I can do, or Tom and I can do, to control how we get paid, because the milk price ain't doing it.
Right. I hear you, girl. That's why we are doing all this. That's why we sell direct to consumer, cut out those middlemen, and make more of a profit. I mean, agritourism is a big thing now.
And I think it's another cool way, especially for you, you know, you and your interior decorating. I'm sure you're a gal who likes to host an event, make a cute space, give a vibe. So it's also a way for at least us ladies to use other pieces of our creativity. Like, we've talked about this before, we're not just farmers. We have so many different skills, interests, ideas. And it's just kind of fun too to be able to, like, I can farm and be with my cows and the kids, but then I can also throw this event and have a good time and meet people and be people-y.
Exactly. I've been able to utilize my creative side through all of this. Like, I painted 2 different barn murals that people can see when they show up to these events. It's always like a good photo op area where they can take their pictures in front of them and tag us in it. So yeah, it's great. We remodeled the shop first next to Aaron's taxidermy shop. It's
Yeah.
adorable, but it's right next to a taxidermy shop. And I'm not sure, like, wasn't sure if people really wanted to see all that when they're coming to pick up their beef. And also, it's close to my in-laws' home. So I felt really uncomfortable about that. I was like, it's like I'm inviting 500 people over to, like, we own the property behind their house, but still their house is like right there. So I never felt quite right doing that. So that's why we remodeled our milk house over by our house to hold these bigger events by us instead of my in-laws.
Yeah. And that space you created is just beautiful. It's so hard to get started. Like, we don't have right now on our farm, like, I don't know. I'd have to start with a tent and just like tent and a porta potty and get people there, do my best to make it look cute, start making money. But then, yes, my goal would be to create some sort of event space that I could host events, but also like sell beef or wine or cheese or other like gifty type things and have like a cute little store. You just got to get started. What would you say are your like top 5 tips of hosting an event on the farm? Like, what are the top 5 things you have to do or like think about? Or because, like, did you guys have a bathroom on the farm? Did you have to rent a porta potty?
So we just rent a porta potty every time. My biggest advice, just like our advice for sharing social media stories, is just start. Like, even if you have to start with just a tent and a porta potty, like, you can still make that cute. You can still invite vendors to come set up tents and still set a photo op scene and sell local goodies.
Yeah. Was Aaron on board right away, or did he kind of give you some flack about this?
He isn't. Like, he always kind of wanted to do this, but then when it comes up, like, so the main reason we do this is when we have a large quantity of beef that we need to move. So when that situation arises, he's almost like hesitant about having events. And I'm like, why, dude? That's the point of doing all this. Like, and we need it. Like, how else are we going to sell huge quantities of beef? So I think it's a love-hate relationship with him because he is kind of more of a private person. So like inviting the public is kind of uncomfortable to him sometimes, but he does understand the need for it.
Yeah, I would say Tom is very much in the same boat, likes his privacy, and I would say his parents are the same way, and they also live on the farm, but he's also just kind of annoying, because when I have an idea, like, I'm like, we'll figure it out on the way. I'm just going to start with this and it'll get better and we'll grow, and just don't worry about anything. Just let's do it. And he is the one who's like, well, what about parking? And what about this? And it won't work this way because of this and that and numbers and facts. And I'm just like, stop. Like, you're ruining my vibe. I know I can make this work. It won't be perfect.
Yes. I feel like, I swear, that's just like the old male farmer mentality, is to immediately jump to, well, this isn't going to work because of this. And just kind of being negative about it.
Yeah.
It's just, in their DNA.
That's part of the reason, I told you before, obviously timing isn't right for us, but Tom's vibe about on-farm events also is just what has led me to host events off the farm. And like we've talked about, I've hosted 3 different masterminds now, and I have had people ask me, like, how do would you do one of these over in New York or in Oregon or like across the country? And guys, I wish I could. Pay for me to come out there and do it. I will. But also, I did write a blog post, and I'm going to share today some tips so that you can do it yourself, because really it was not that hard. To host an event on the farm or off the farm, all you need is to have an idea, your mission, a goal, and just kind of go from there. Here are my tips. I wrote them down in my little notepad on my phone. So my first tip is just decide how big you want your mastermind to be or your event to be. Is it going to be a few people? Is it going to be a few hundred people? Like, get that figured out. 2, create an intention and a goal for the mastermind. Be clear on your why and why you want to host a mastermind. Then decide, are you going to serve food? Are you going to have some snackies, some drinkies? What size of venue do you need? If people are traveling, are hotels nearby? And that was something I took into big consideration, because I hate when I travel to a conference or something, and not only do I have to fly there, then I have to drive like 2 hours to the venue, and then there's not even a hotel close by. Like, I want it to be easy peasy, just get me there so I can have some fun. So when I was picking out venues, I definitely was like, okay, are there a lot of hotels available? Can people get here easily?
Yeah, definitely thinking about your guests and what they would appreciate.
Yeah. And then create a budget. What's it going to cost to put this all together? Don't forget that your time is worth something too. I think so often people host something and they don't pay themselves. Like, you are the person behind this. You're organizing everything. You're getting the vendors, putting together the swag bags, all the details, working with the caterer. Like, that's all worth something. You need to be compensated for that. So when you figure out a budget or what you want to charge for a ticket, like, include that. And then something else to consider is sponsorship. I was pretty lucky, I think all 3 of them, to get some sponsors on board. I just kind of wrote some letters telling them about this event, why I was excited about them, and what their sponsorship could do. And it's kind of funny, it was the first time I've ever really asked for sponsorship, and someone wrote back, they're like, great, what are the sponsorship levels? And I read that email, I was like, fuck, I don't know what the sponsorship levels are. So then I Googled sponsorship levels and then quickly just like put something together like, okay, if you are a beginner sponsor or a gold sponsor, this is the price and this is what you get. Again, here I am winging it, not knowing what I'm doing.
That's awesome. I love that. You know what? What would we do without Google, honestly?
Yeah, just Google it. And the phrase, I know some people don't like the phrase fake it till you make it, but I live by it.
So true,
Fake
though.
it till you make it.
Yes.
I just pretend I have it all figured out and then I Google it.
Yep, we are secretly Googling everything.
Everything. So after you kind of got your budget and everything figured out, create a rough agenda. Prepare a series of questions. Yeah, again, I Googled that for my mastermind. Like, I Googled and researched mastermind questions from all walks of life of different masterminds, and I kind of put together my own and had those ready to go so that when it was time to journal and have conversations, like, I was the person mediating and getting the ball rolling. And then after that, just start selling tickets, advertise the heck out of it. And again, that's like when social media comes in quite handy.
Mm-hmm. Other ideas I've thought about is charging like a cover or charging, you have to like buy tickets to come and then there'd be like live music something like that. I feel like that would be a great thing to draw in the crowds.
Yeah, I have an idea, but I don't know if I want to share it on here because I don't want anyone to steal my idea. But maybe I'll tell you after this.
Okay.
Sorry, we're gatekeeping over here. No,
but I keep a few things to ourselves every now and again.
Essentially, it was kind of what you were talking about. I just don't want to give it. I think the name is really cute, so I don't want to give it away. But yeah, like maybe once a month in the warmer months, have a band and some food trucks, and maybe it's family friendly or maybe it's adults only, and just like a good old time on the farm.
Oh, I do want to add, you know how we went through all those steps to get our ag tourism permit? It specifically says on our paperwork that we cannot have food trucks. A coffee truck is okay.
What?
Food trucks are absolutely not. And so is catering. So like I always wanted to do like a steak dinner on the farm or have pizza on the farm or whatever. Yeah, I can't do any of that.
Why?
I have no idea. That I think is a different license and permit.
All the more reason, guys, to just ask go get that egg tourism permit.
And do not.
It's not our fault.
Do not ask about alcohol ever. Do not inquire. So we have like other rules too. Like we can't use more than 25% of our floor space in our building to sell merchandise. It has to be under 25%. I'm like, what? Like, okay, everything's on a shelf. I know it doesn't make sense to me, but anyways.
America, the world we live in. The moral of the story, I think when it comes to hosting events is just get started.
Yep, just get started, figure it out as you go. And the reason we do it is we just like to spark interest in our Longhorn breed. That's a perk. Get people interested in it, move large quantities of beef, meet the community face to face so they know us, they trust us, and they can also see exactly where their beef is coming from, that it's, you know, a well-kept, clean farm, and these are good people.
Yeah, that's so important. Whether you're selling, you know, direct to consumer or you're just a dairy farmer like us, our milk goes to Kemp's. But the reason I share is because of that like, no trust and putting a face to the product, because people truly care about that. Like I always say, the best way to promote agriculture or a product is not really talking about it, but talking about yourself and showing how you live and just being a human first, because people can connect to you and then they're going to want to buy from you. And so creating opportunities like hosting events does exactly that. It gives them a chance to meet you in person and really see things for themselves and give them that peace of mind.
Absolutely. Oh, just another perk about having events, like, so I call our events like a pop-up shop because we don't have like regular open hours on the farm. So the good thing about having these pop-up shops is the public shows up at the time you tell them to, and then they all leave. Like it's very like you have the control, like, and there's not people stopping by whenever.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just helpful in that
Yeah.
situation.
You don't have to sit around waiting, being in the shop, or yeah.
Right? Yeah, just waiting for customers to come pick up 1 pound of beef. Like, I'll do it, but it's just easier to hold these events, have everyone show up at the same time, get their beef, and then you can relax for a little bit.
Yeah. Oh, that's so smart. Like, I didn't even think of it that way. So smart.
So I do have a few other things that went wrong.
Courtney, tell me about all the things that went wrong. Surely you have some stories.
I do. So I told you about the stop work order immediately. That we took care of. I think it was our second coffee with the cows. Now we've rebranded it. We call it Horns and Heart because it's more than just coffee. I have vendors and everything. So at the second coffee with the cows, I lost Isla. I lost my child.
Oh, no.
And it was so, oh my God, Annaliese, it was so traumatic. Like, so what happened was Aaron and I think this was the one that like 500 strangers show up to your property.
Yes.
Aaron and I were packaging beef in the shop as fast as we can. Like, there's a line out the door. I had like my mom and my mother-in-law and family members there to kind of help look over the children. But my daughter is 3 at the time. And so I think what happened was nobody knew who was actually watching her. Like, we all kind of so many people were there that knew our family that they would strike up conversations and then they're distracted and then they assume you are watching the kid and blah, blah, blah. So nobody was actually watching Isla for 2 seconds. And what had happened was my cousin came into the shop, grabbed her, and took her to like the other side of the pasture. Nobody knew. And maybe she even told me. I don't know. I was so busy with customers and frazzled that I might not have even heard her or remembered. So yeah, I frantically was running around looking for my missing child, my missing 3-year-old. And Aaron and I were freaking out. Both grandmas were in panic. She was nowhere to be found. And then all of a sudden I saw people coming back. Apparently, like, the cows had gone way on the other side of the pasture. It loops around. So I was like, okay, well, maybe this is the very last spot I can even think of to look.
Yeah.
And I ran over there and she was there with my cousin, happy as can be, just looking at the cows. But yeah, I was traumatized by that. So now at every event, even though my girls are older now, like, I have a babysitter.
Smart.
And I was like, you are in charge. Like, if you get talking to someone, you're still in charge.
Right.
Like,
Yeah, I was gonna
so
say,
dramatic.
friendly tip, everyone. Corral your kids for the event.
Yes. I was like, oh my God, there's so many strangers here. Someone took her. Someone took
Right?
her.
Scary, scary. Don't like that. That's an icky, icky feeling.
Yep, for reals.
Oh, there was like one time on the farm where I couldn't find one of the kids, and it was just, oh, that gut wrenching feeling. I hate it.
You feel so helpless. Like,
Ugh. Did you have any more stories? Any
um,
other problems, Courtney? What else happened to you?
I will say I was not very well prepared for one of the events. Like, I did not have enough cash, like
Oh,
smaller bills. That was something that was overlooked. It was only like my second or third event. It somehow slipped my mind. So I had people who it was so busy and they had all these large bills and I didn't know what to do because I couldn't make change. So they were like trying to make change. Customers were trying to make change with each other. And it was just, I was so flustered. So just make sure you have enough small bills.
sure. Do you have one of those
And
fancy credit card things now, or not yet?
I do now. I do
Yes.
now. The only thing we always struggle with is it will, of course, take like 3% or
Mm.
whatever of your profits, which is so frustrating because you're like, the profit margin is already small. Like, and now you're going to take 3%. So usually what we do is we let people know like you can do cash or check. If I have to run your credit card, it's going to be a 3% upcharge.
Yeah.
So we don't
Lose
our profits. And then that brings me to the other issue. Our last event, I tested our Wi-Fi in the newly renovated milk house and it worked totally fine. But of course that day, for whatever reason, it wouldn't work. Just straight up didn't work. I was so concerned because all of our vendors, I had told them like, yes, we have Wi-Fi for running credit card payments. So I panicked, but luckily it was okay because they all got service in there. So they didn't need the Wi-Fi. So it turned out to be fine. But yeah, it's just one of those things comes up and you're like, damn it.
Yeah, there's always going to be things that go wrong, no matter what. But you just gotta power through. Well, speaking of things that go wrong, I have some followers who shared some stories of things that went wrong when they hosted events. This first one made me laugh really hard. My sister was supposed to bring the mashed potatoes for the extended family Thanksgiving, like 30 people. She was on a health kick, so instead she brought mashed cauliflower. So there were no potatoes at Thanksgiving.
Ruined Thanksgiving. Why would you do that?
Oh, I said, how dare she? How dare she? You're on a health kick. You want to eat some mashed cauliflower? Great. But at least bring potatoes for the rest of them. I said, what did everyone say? And she's like, I don't think anyone actually said anything to her. But my brother and I still talk about it 15 years later. Don't ruin my Thanksgiving with your cauliflower.
Right. No kidding.
3 more. All right. This is actually another Thanksgiving story. The year was 2021 and people were finally attempting to get back together. It was the weekend after Thanksgiving. I was hosting Friendsgiving and it was really fun. Everyone had a great time, all was well. Then 2 days later, it was like the ladder effect. Everyone was getting sick. Turns out we all got COVID from the couple that didn't even come, but still had a friend bring their crock pot of mashed potatoes. Again, with the mashed potatoes. This was at the time when everyone had to quarantine for 14 days, and then anyone who didn't get it still had to quarantine for an additional 14 days from the last day of exposure, which means we missed all the holiday activities that year for Christmas. The school concert, seeing Santa, getting a tree, etc. It was really sad. And she says, I have yet to host another party due to PTSD from that.
That's really unfortunate. And to have to cancel. I remember during COVID times, we had to cancel one of our on the farm events that, you put in so much work and effort into it. And then you're like, oh, never mind.
Ugh, so annoying.
Yeah.
Speaking of events that you put a lot of work into and then they can just get canceled, here's another story. This person was hosting a 4-H leadership conference, and 4 hours before it was about to start, she got a message from the conference center that said, we can no longer hold your event And I was like, what did you do? Because that would be my worst nightmare. She says, I panicked for about 5 minutes and then I found my colleagues. We started reaching out to local businesses to see which ones could accommodate food for 130 people in 4 hours. Luckily, there was one. And she just ran around like crazy pants trying to get things going. What a nightmare. 4 hours before, and then they're just like, nope, sorry, can't do it anymore.
That's some kind of miracle that they were able to get a venue and food figured out in that short amount of time.
It's crazy. All right, here's one last one.
Shit my pants.
This person had a horrible TV interview. She says, this was probably 2 years ago. A local news station wanted to come out for National Women's Month featuring women in ag. My mom and I were both going to be in the segment. I got one of our cows all shined up and headed over to our farm ice cream store to meet the crew. Well, we were waiting for like 30 minutes at the store before we could start filming since this was going to be live. The cow was getting restless. Thankfully, I had brought a bucket of grain for her for when we started filming. So it's finally time to start filming, and somehow we get on the topic of how milk cows are female and how much milk they produce. Then the newsman starts telling us a story about how when him and his wife had their first child and his wife shot breast milk on his face in the morning. I kid you not. I was like, what the hell is happening? My mom quickly interrupted him, and thank the Lord the camera guy was like, that's all the time we have. So he said that
I love this guy.
Yeah. Oh, I don't even think that's horrible at all. That's great. Like,
did you ever shoot Tom with your breast milk? Because I definitely did that one.
Oh God, it was liquid gold. Every ounce I could get out of these teats, I was putting in the bottle and feeding to the kids. There was no shenanigans with my milk.
Did you ever try your own milk?
No, did you?
I made Aaron try it first, obviously.
Yeah.
I can't remember what he said, but then I tried it and it didn't really taste like anything. And then I was like, what's wrong with my milk? Am I making this wrong? Tastes like water.
Here's a story. We had some friends who, her and her husband, they like to go to the strip club. So it was like a group of couples that went to the strip club after drinking one night. God, I can't remember how it worked now. I can't remember. Milk was shooting out of somebody's teats. I just can't remember if it was the stripper's teats or if the stripper started like titty flopping my friend and milk started coming out of her teats. I don't know, but it was at a strip club and milk was coming out and it just sounded horrifying.
That's so funny. Is this just like a Midwestern thing or does this kind of shit happen everywhere?
I don't know.
That's what I want to know.
A Midwestern thing.
Just spraying her milk everywhere. No shame.
Nope. No shame. With that, friend, I don't know. That was a good little chitty chat about events. I hope, I don't know if anybody out there is like wanting to host an event on the farm to sell a product or to get people on the farm to learn more about agriculture, like just do it. Or if you want to host an event somewhere for rural women or for those inside of ag, outside of ag, like just do it because it is needed. There's never enough people doing it. And like we talked about, you have that special thing, like just you being you, people are going to want to come to it. So don't ever think there's too much of something. You can do that thing.
Right. Even if you have to start small at first, like you'll figure it out as you go.
Hell yeah. All right. Well, with that, I'm going to finish the rest of this Fresca, probably move on to some whiskey. So you have a day.
You have a day.
It's
great talking to you.
Have the day you deserve. Okay. All right. Bye, girl.
Bye, friend.
Guys, thanks for hanging out with us today.
If you had as much fun as we did, would you do us a favor and share this episode with a friend?
Speaking of friends, can we all be friends over on the Instagram? You can find me at @ModFarmChick.
And me at Mrs. Green Pastures Cattle.
See you next week, guys.